Welcome, everyone, to our live stream. I am so excited to have you. I am Lori Kennedy, the founder of the Wellness Business Hub, and I have with me, I am so honored, Sandra Scheinbaum from the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here.
And we are going to have a really good and, in my opinion, necessary conversation. And I asked Sandra to come and join me for this because there are so many incredible, smart, purpose-driven practitioners, specifically, I would say the licensed and regulated ones, who were never taught coaching. They were never taught, how to coach a client through a transformation. We work with a lot of nurse practitioners. We work with a lot of regulated professionals and even a lot of coaches. We're never really taught what it is to work with other humans and actually coach them through their resistance and coach them through their own challenges. And so I said, please help my art. Please come and let's have a conversation about this. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Do you want to start off and maybe just give a little bit of background info for the few people who don't know who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So I was a clinical psychologist for close to 40 years. I specialized in health psychology. So I worked with people who had physical conditions that I was helping them with things like mind-body medicine, which didn't have a name back when I started doing this, and back in the late 70s, early 80s. And then I founded the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy when I was 65. That was back in 2015. And we are a remote school. We train people from all walks of life. You could be a medical doctor, a certified practitioner, a licensed practitioner, and choose to also become a health coach. We also have people who are completely new to health coaching, and they're doing it for many reasons, for career changes, or perhaps for their non-retirement retirement years. And this field is growing. It is I believe, the key to really solving our healthcare crisis, because we are facing a doctor shortage, we are facing practitioners who are exhausted and burned out, and we are also facing a population getting unhealthier by the day. And it is all in the news now that young people are getting cancer at alarming rates. And so we need a support to help people with lifestyle change, because it's hard. It's hard to make those changes. That's my mission in life, to train people to be health coaches and to help people become aware that health coaching exists, and so how beneficial this could be.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that's why we've been able to collaborate over the years together in terms of just podcasts and whatnot, because there are so many, like I said, there's so many qualified, practitioners and coaches, whether they have patient experience or client experience or no experience at all. And I find that one of the biggest reasons that they hesitate is because they're not confident that they're going to be able to get results, because working with patients in, let's say, a hospital setting or a clinical setting is very different than coaching, right? It's very different. And I would love to know from you, what is the first thing that a qualified person can do, whether they have experience working with people or not? What is sort of the first thing that they can do to become more comfortable as a coach?
Yeah. So what I'm going to say really comes from the wisdom, the teachings of positive psychology. And that's the study of what's right with you, not what's wrong with you. Ask the question, how do people thrive? What makes a life well lived? And so in order to serve people at the highest level, which is what we all want, that's why you're here. You want to serve people. It starts with you. And it starts with something that we call gathering yourself. And this is a principle that in functional medicine is the first step. And what does that mean? It means that you turn inward and clear your mind and focus on that person that you're going to have that encounter with. Because we all can be preoccupied. If you have a busy day, you have a lot of people to see, you're in a hospital setting, you're going from room to room. I did that. I was in psychosocial oncology, made rounds, and it is before you enter that person's room, or if you are a practitioner and you're in an office, or if you're seeing someone remotely, before that encounter, you take this moment to clear your mind and let go of anything you were worried about, then anything, a phone call, an email that you had that might be upsetting, any family issues, anything that will pull you away from being completely mindful. And so you enter that encounter with this cleared head.
Mhm.
And that is the first step.
Yeah.
And the second step calls upon these are categories. And within these categories, they're called virtues, and we all have them. And the first one is wisdom.
Mm.
There are character strengths within our wisdom virtue. We all have them. We're born. The positive psychology researchers went all over the world. They looked at all cultures. They looked at teachings from religion, from philosophy, from psychology, and came up with these character strengths. And they divided them into these areas, these 6 areas. And the first one is wisdom. And so, therefore, you have a sense that you are going to be of service. And how do you do that? Well, the most important, what comes first in this wisdom bucket area is curiosity, being curious. We've all had this experience of being with a professional, a doctor, where they just they didn't care about us. You felt like they weren't curious about our life. So curiosity means you have this sense of, I want to learn as much as I can. I'm curious. And you can even use that word. I'm curious. What is there anything that you haven't talked about that you think is really important for me to know? And it's often a nonverbal sense where you're making eye contact and you're really present and you're showing that you are interested in this person's story. You want to hear their story. That's curiosity.
Mhm.
And that is so, so important to begin with that.
Yeah. And the one thing that strikes me about those 2 strategies that you just talked about, and the thing that I see so often, especially with practitioners and coaches who have never really worked with clients in this way, what I see and what I hear is they're so concerned with being perfect. They're so concerned. Like, I've had conversations with nurses, I've had conversations with medical doctors who've been in, speech therapists, social workers who've been in their field for 10 or 15 years ask me if I think someone is going to want to work with them. And I look at them and I say, "What?" I'm sorry. Why would, like, you have so much experience, you have so much knowledge. And I think there's this epidemic of perfectionism and this obsession with needing to be perfect, and that, to me, that means the focus is all about like me. How am I going to do a good job? And what I hear you saying is to take the focus off me and to put it on serving the client, right?
Yes.
To make sure that I am gathered enough to be able to be present with the person that I want to serve, so that I can actively listen and be curious and not be up all in my head. Am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I da 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 da? Is that what I'm like? That's what I'm hearing you say.
Totally. We once did an exercise at a coaching workshop I went to that we had chairs back to back, and we couldn't speak as the other person was talking. You were actively listening.
Mhm.
It's so hard. We want to interject. We want to tell people what to do. Oh, you should be doing this. Have you tried this? Giving advice. That's not coaching. They can go on the internet, they can get all kinds of information. And if they're asking for it, that's one thing. But if you all you do in that session is listen, we used to call that bedside manner when people were trying, it's disappearing.
Mhm.
And it is making eye contact, it is listening, it is being fully present. And it starts with that gathering yourself where you're letting go of that, how am I going to do, or particularly that you're distracted, you're running late, there's a waiting room full of people, how am I, and you're not fully present. And
Yeah.
that is so important. And then you can get to this how are you going to acknowledge that person's bravery? Because courage is is the next one, and that is where you are really admiring, what how and you're as they tell their story, you're listening to their story and reinforcing their courage, whatever they're suffering from. They may have had bad experiences with medical system, and talking about family struggles, about finance, social determinants of health. So you reinforce their bravery, and that is something that I don't see enough of. We're focusing on often like this is a difficult patient, and they're complaining a lot, and so if you reinforce that, it's really really effective.
Yeah.
And showing kindness and fairness. These are, it just again, this is you can be as you're breathing with somebody. So when this comes from the world of heart math, if you are feeling warmth flowing through your heart, and that's heart centered communication, that can be felt even remotely. It can come across where you are now in rapport and you have empathy.
Mhm.
And it's really showing love, and for that individual, combined with social intelligence,
Yeah.
really being aware of their style, how they're communicating, and observing that is
Yeah.
really powerful.
And as you were saying that, I was thinking the the resistance that I hear a lot is, what if I don't know the answers to the questions? What if I can't help them? What if I'm not certain? And what you're talking about has nothing to do with being right. You know, like I think we get so caught up in, I need to be right and I need to have all the answers. And what you're talking about, these coaching strategies, is really creating this supportive container. And I almost like have this visualization of like holding them, right? Where like the right answer is irrelevant. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
that's not coaching, right? That's prescribing. That's a whole different thing, right? That's not coaching. And it's so interesting, as you said, and I want to maybe go back to this. You said, giving advice is not coaching. And I think that's so interesting, where part of the bottleneck of these practitioners and coaches, that it's stopping them from showing up and doing this critical work, is this concept that I have to have all the answers and I have to be right, and otherwise I'm not professional. And they don't consider that being professional is having these bedside manner coaching skills, is being able to hold someone and validate their experience, and encourage their courage, right? And really congratulate them for even showing up to the call. The Maya Angelou, and I'm going to butcher this, but I think it's Maya Angelou who said, people don't remember what they say, but they remember how you make them feel,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. That's it.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Totally. And there's an old saying that for a teacher and learner, that rather than I'm the teacher and you're the learner, together we're going to learn.
Mhm.
And that's the process of coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really, my mind is racing with all these things, because there's such a separation between professional training, right? You have professional training. For everybody that is in my audience that's listening to this, you're trained. Like, if you have a certification, a degree, a piece of paper, you're well trained. And we now need the practical application, which I think that's where the disconnect is, which is the coaching piece, right? How do I actually get them to do these things that I want them to do? Right? How do I actually do that? And so this is what we're talking about, right? It's being able to have these kinds of conversations, right? So, being able to gather yourself first was the first strategy, right? Being able to be curious, right? Having courage,
Yes.
right? And congratulating them and just honoring the fact that they are showing up for themselves to begin with, because that's the hardest part, acknowledging, right? Getting started. And so what is the next sort of strategy that these professionals can apply?
Yeah. So the next, it really is related to this, what we call in positive psychology, the humanity strengths. And it has to do with love and kindness. And that means holding somebody in unconditional positive regard.
Mm.
Challenging because they may be saying things that you don't agree with, is wrong for them or could be wrong. For example, if you have a belief that this person should be keto or paleo or grain free, and they're talking about being a raw vegan, and that. So, how do you then show this unconditional positive regard? Even though they might be saying things that doesn't fit, for how you want them to live their life. How do you not jump in right away and say, well, you shouldn't be doing that, or this, there are strategies in coaching where you have that rapport first, and you are asking the right kind of questions where they will have that aha moment. Oh, maybe this raw vegan diet, hasn't been serving me well. And they might then be emboldened to try something new, but it's always they're making that decision. And you, through the way you are appreciating them, and it might be going back to, it sounds like you're interested in your health, and reinforcing that. Even if somebody says, oh, I switched from regular Coke to Diet Coke, because I really think that's a better choice. It'll be healthier for me, rather than saying, oh, that's not good. You are with them and appreciating them, again, showing this heart-centered love for their ability to have this aha moment and make these different choices. And it's this is often nonverbal. It's our attitudes, our expressions that are nonverbal language. Or we've had, so how do you show up for somebody where you are neutral? They're in the driver's seat. And so if they want to change, and that's through a conversation, they will get to that point. And it is by acknowledging their wisdom that they can figure it out. They have their unique story. They're the architects of their life, and you are just along for the ride and
Mhm.
helping them. And you can't say things like, may I make a suggestion? Are you interested? We can explore, the effect of, like, when you eat these foods, how do you feel? And you help them be that detective.
Mhm. And as you were explaining that, one of the things that I thought about, which I hear very often, is taking responsibility for the client's outcomes, right? Where the coach will take it on and create this almost like codependent situation, which is not good, because then we can't do it for them. We, again, are the facilitator. We are, guiding, we are sort of taking them on this journey and guiding them, but they are the ones sort of leading, and we're facilitating. And so I think that strategy that you just described really alleviates that pressure of their results are dependent on me, right? Like the client getting results, it's my fault, right? Because if we're able to do that and we understand the options and we understand, the protocol because we're trained, and that's what where the training piece comes in. We can then sit there in this neutral place and get really curious and say, well, how does that make you feel? Right? Are you open to a recommendation? Oh, it doesn't make you feel that great? Great. Would you like to hear a recommendation? Right? You want, like, if I were, here's what I would do. Right? And we can really facilitate it in that way. But I think it's important to understand how to do that and how to be able to hold space for that conversation so that we don't feel like responsible for getting the client results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so what would be the last strategy then?
Yeah. So it has to do with self-regulation. So
Mm.
self-regulation is we all have it, and we apply it in different ways. And so self-regulation means that you're able to say no. Let's say you're at a buffet, and there's this big array of choices, and you can say no because you have that control. And so you'll have many people coming to you and saying, "Oh, I blew my diet," or "I can't," and they'll often be more honest with a coach than they will be with a practitioner, because they see that practitioner as the authority figure. So they're not going to say, "Oh, I finished half a bag of cookies the night before." They might even cancel the appointment if it's like, if they're feeling badly enough, because they're thinking, "Oh, I blew it and I'll never be successful." And they may be voicing these things to you, and you can reinforce that the ways that they do have self-regulation. So they ate a half a bag of cookies, but maybe they stopped and they didn't eat the whole bag. Maybe they put it down. Whereas maybe they told you, a week ago they were eating the whole bag.
Mhm.
And maybe in that Diet Coke example, maybe they've made a commitment to cut down to maybe 2 a day from the 6 or 7 that they were having all day long. And so you acknowledge wherever they show that self-regulation, that change process is a victory, and you celebrate those tiny wins. It is so important. So they've committed, they've talked about, "Oh yeah, I want to start exercise. I just can't seem to get going, or I start and then I don't follow through. I've had this gym membership, I'm not using it." And then, what you ask these really big questions like, "What do you want your health for?" And from that conversation, then they say, "Yeah, I do want to be around to see my grandkids grow up." "Well, where do you want to start today?" And they make that commitment. And so you acknowledge that they have that within them. They have the ability to make those changes. And wherever they are on that continuum, even if it was they put on their walking shoes and they went out for 5 minutes, well, that's great. This is wonderful progress. And so, because we tend to sometimes judge, they're not exactly where I would like them, but look for where they have displayed that self regulation.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's applied to both the client and the coach, right? The
Yes.
coach having that level of self regulation also to look for the wins in their clients. Again, going back to releasing the feeling that they are responsible for their client's results and they are a failure if the client doesn't go from 0 to perfect in 12 weeks, right? And then I think having that, I love I love this because I think that alleviates a lot of the pressure if we can identify um, these wins, right? These self-regulation wins from our clients, that reinforces that we're doing a good job. And when we feel like we're doing a good job, that energy then translates to the clients, and we feel more confident about our ability to create transformation, because it's not like, oh, 12 weeks, I'm transformed, all done. Right? It's a continuum, as you say. And I think these strategies are so important. And the biggest thing that I just want to reinforce to everyone is that it takes the pressure off me, having to be perfect, and really puts the focus on the client. Because we all say we want to serve, we want to serve. But when we're so preoccupied with, am I doing a good job? Am I doing a good job? Am I doing a good job? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this perfect? The focus isn't on the client, right? The focus is on us. And so learning these strategies, and being able to embody them throughout the client's journey will, I'm certain, avoid a feeling of burnout and also make it more fulfilling for all of us, because there's so much joy in being able to be that kind of coach, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, thank you for this. This was amazing. And I'm sure really sparked some aha moments for a lot of practitioners and coaches, and gave them some really tangible ways that they can start showing up differently, and some things that they can start looking into. If they wanted to learn more about the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy and you and coaching, where would be the best place to get started?
They can go to functionalmedicinecoaching.org. That's our website. They can go to Facebook, same thing, Functional Medicine Coaching. On Instagram, Functional Med Coach. My personal Instagram is Dr. Sandy. That's DrSandi.
Amazing. And we do have 2 free guides that are linked somewhere around this video that you can go and download and dive into the world of coaching. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing this. And thank you, everybody, so much for watching. And we will chat again soon. Bye.